Okay, so now I am continuing. I just took a big video of the caterpillar, or whatever it is. I'm going to be keeping this hairy caterpillar because I call him Harry, based off of Harry Parker. Anyways, as I was saying, there is still a time warp in the universe from Mysterio doing the time warping thing over and over and over again, and it is going to cause this being to come into this universe, and she is a very obscure Spider-Man villain, and I think she was only in one Spider-Man comic, in fact, and her name is Shathra, and she is basically half wasp, half person, and she is supposedly from the astral plane, but I would like her to come from a universe that's just wasps, and it's just an entire wasp universe, and it's sort of like a freaky alternate dimension, and it's really creepy and horror centric. It's got a lot of Clive Barker characteristics, and I would like Shathra to be played by Madeline Martin, who played Becca in Californication. I thought that she was really good in Californication, and I'd really like to see her play like a villainous character. I think that she would do a really good job, and I think that she's got the characteristics to be this sort of gothic type of villain. And wasps, they aren't sexy, so she's not going to be, and I didn't mean it like, like she's not sexy, but I wanted the wasp character to be kind of more horror centric, to be scary. I don't want her to be like Catwoman, where she's just kind of like eye candy. Like, that's all she is. Like, I want her to be sort of monstrous and sort of like ugly and terrifying, because when I see a wasp nearby, I'm not thinking about, oh yeah, that wasp looks sexy. Like, no, I'm thinking that wasp looks fucking creepy and scary, and get that wasp away. They're very threatening. They'll sting you a million times until you die. They're very scary. If like, let's say there's like a wasp nest, which inside our front door there is two wasp nests, and yeah, it's pretty intense. I had to get a wasp out of the house the other day. So I really think that this character, she could be very scary. The first thing that she does is she goes to Spider-Man, and Spider-Man also, I should say, Spider-Man doesn't like him hanging around Jessica Jones that much. He thinks that she's a bad influence on him, and so, as I said before, fighting ideals between them in order to uh, shape Harry. I think that that would be really interesting. But Shathra goes to Spider-Man herself, and she basically causes a big ruckus in the city somewhere in order to attract Spider-Man for unknown reasons. We don't really know why she's attracting him there. Well, it turns out that she has this BS where she says that her universe is dying, and Spider-Man has to come to her universe in order to help her, because her citizens, the wasp people, they're all dying. They're all starving. They've run out of food, and they just went through this wormholes. They're their only last hope, and so you have Shathra basically asking for help from Spider-Man, and he says, "No, I'm not going to help you. There's other people in this universe more equipped to deal with this sort of issue." And yeah, I'm sorry. Please don't cause any more trouble. I'll lead you to whoever you want to see. If you want to see Doctor Strange, if you want to see the Fantastic Four, if you want to see the Avengers, whoever you want to see, I'll take you to them to help you. Because I am not equipped to help you. I don't even know, like, how do I even begin to do that. And so Spider-Man basically he calls bullshit on her whole thing. Like he kind of knows that she's bullshitting him, and but we still don't know her real motive, what she really wants. So then stuff happens, and eventually Spider-Man also pays a visit to J. Jonah Jameson and Flash Thompson separately. And it's really funny because Doctor Strange hypnotizes J. Jonah Jameson into liking Peter in the Spider-Man 3 time travel sequence in Spider-Man 4. And so now J. Jonah Jameson is the opposite of what he's always been. He is just a complete Spider-Man fanatic. And all these people, they call him a sellout. You know, they call him a fake and a fraud because he's basically full on Spider-Man simping now. And it's just a temporary thing, by the way. It's just a one movie thing, obviously. You know, I don't want that to be. Because that would suck, you know, changing his character like that forever. But this is just for fun. And anyways, then he sees Flash Thompson. And Flash, I want his character to have sort of a subplot where he took off the Venom suit. And that was one conflict that I didn't get into that I should talk about, is that at the end of Spider-Man 4, before Flash even got sent back to his universe, Spider-Man had to make him get out of the Venom suit, you know, convince him, you know, get out of the suit while you still can, while you still have control. And it's troubling Flash because he's basically, in Spider-Man 4, Peter found him and he was doing okay. He was having a pretty good job, a pretty good life, but now he is sort of like a drug addict for the Venom, and he really wants the Venom again. He wants to put on the suit. He wants to be Venom with Venom, and Spider-Man basically visits him all the time to make sure that he doesn't, and it's sort of like an impending doom, and that's sort of a part of the sad thing, is that now that Flash is Peter's friend, Peter actually made him this addict to Venom. And so there's this pretty scary, sort of sad thing where he goes to visit him and he's like, "Are you going to be okay? Like, please do not put on the suit. You know, just do all your power not to put on the suit." And he says, "Okay, I won't." And he wants to know how Mary Jane is doing, obviously. He wants to know how his son is doing. And that's when Spider-Man remembers, oh shit, his son is probably hanging out with Jessica Jones. And they get into a few situations together, and it'll be pretty funny to see that. Spider-Man saves his son and Jessica Jones from a particular incident. I'd sort of like them both to encounter like Kingpin or something. You know, like a heavy hitter type of villain, and Spider-Man comes and saves them, and he's like, you know, stop hanging out with this person. I forbid you to keep on hanging out with Jessica Jones. So his son's resentment for Peter is growing. Harry's resentment for him is growing. At the same time, Mary Jane has mysteriously disappeared, and we will find out where she is, but Spider-Man's really worried. He goes home and he's like, wait a second, where's Mary? Where is she? And then all of a sudden, after a couple of hours, Mary Jane shows up at the door. And she's kind of weird. She's kind of a little bit different. And I want to have a really good dinner scene that's sort of like the one in Invaders from Mars. Sort of like the breakfast scene from that movie, where you have Mary Jane, she cooks dinner for Peter and Harry and the other son, who I haven't even named yet. See how pitching is just an ongoing editing process? Because I'm just constantly editing myself, and you guys don't even know how much I am. But there are some really key red flags, you know. Mary is exhibiting all these weird characteristics, and I want it to be kind of like a horror thing where there's all these really gross things. Like she makes a really gross dinner that like no human would want to eat, or I guess not. It's just a really weird dinner, and she's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I made this for you. Yeah, this is just I'm really good at cooking, right?" And she sits down and she eats it really weirdly, and there just be all these really gross, weird, creepy things happening with her, and it's like, what is going on? Like, is there something wrong with her? What happened to her when she was gone for those few hours? She didn't tell Peter she was going anywhere. She didn't leave a note or anything. So that is what leads Peter to believe, oh shit, this is Shathra. And he wondered why was his spider sense triggered the entire time that she was there. He was kind of telling her like, my spider sense is going off. Did something happen? Are you in danger? Did someone follow you? Why is my spider sense going off? And then we find out, then she reveals herself. No, wait, no, she doesn't. Never mind. So Spider-Man, he's really like freaked out. But then what happens is Shathra actually shows up, supposedly, and she kidnaps Mary Jane, who's acting weird, and she takes her through the warp, through to the Wasp universe. And so we think that Shathra has just kidnapped Mary Jane, and she's taken her to this universe, and Spider-Man has got to go save her. She's the damsel in distress. So then what happens is he calls Aunt May and tells her to watch over his kids. What happens, of course, is that Harry follows Spider-Man, and not only that, but Jessica Jones follows both of them into the Wasp universe. And then the warp closes, and it's like, uh-oh, we're not going to be able to get out of here. And wait a second, why is Harry here? Why is Jessica Jones here? So that's where the whole movie really takes place. And then we the audience find out, that Mary Jane was just visiting Flash Thompson, and she just wanted to go see him to make sure he's okay. And it's his first time seeing her in quite a while, and so I wanted to have that little scene. And then she goes home and says like, "What the hell's going on?" And she finds out that Spider-Man basically left to go deal with some business, and so she's like, "Okay, whatever." And Aunt May and Mary, they spend the rest of the movie sort of waiting for Spider-Man to come home. And the reason why I did that is because I didn't want to complicate things by having too many plots and too many characters. Because honestly, you could say, well, Mary could actually go to Doctor Strange or someone to open up a portal to that universe to make sure that they can get out, which I might have that happen too. That sounds like it would be a good idea, but it can't happen right now, so that can't happen. So then Spider-Man, his son, and Jessica Jones are trapped in this universe, and it is going to be a horror to the 1000%. Like, you've never seen a Spider-Man in a horror movie like this. And I want the wasp creatures to be really creepy and gross and evil and really scary. I want this to be a scary experience where they're in this universe. And I want the city to sort of look like a wasp nest, but at the same time sort of be an actual city. So I want that to be kind of, I don't know. I'd have to like draw it out, but I don't want it to completely look like a city or like a wasp nest. I want it to be kind of in between. And so the rest of the movie is Spider-Man, Jessica Jones, and Harry trying to find supposedly Mary Jane, but then it turns out it's Shathra, of course, and they fight her and try to get out. But something else comes into play. Kraven the Hunter has followed them into the time warp, into this alternate dimension, and Kraven wants to go after Spider-Man too. And it turns out that the way that Shathra tricked Spider-Man is that Kraven dressed up as Shathra in order to kidnap Shathra dressed as Mary Jane and to trick Spider-Man into going into that universe. So Kraven made a deal with Shathra that he would help trap Spider-Man in that universe and that they would both kill him and feed him to the entire Wasp planet just as long as Kraven gets to kill him. So that's the deal that they made. So you have, at the same time, you have Kraven coming after them, trapping them, really intense battles between them, really intense trapping sequences, sort of like Rambo First Blood, but you also have the horror of these wasp creatures. And so you kind of have a couple of moments where Kraven and Spider-Man have to team up where the wasps are going to kill them both, and it's like, uh-oh, what's going to happen in this little situation? So I haven't really thoroughly mapped that out yet, but that's just the bare plot. That's just the basic plot that I wanted to talk about. In terms of Kraven the Hunter, I think they said that they wanted Keanu Reeves to play Kraven, but Keanu passed. Well, as I've said before, I want Michael Mando from Better Call Saul to play Kraven the Hunter, and I know that it would be a race swap. Honestly, I think that he's a great actor, and I would really love to see him as Kraven the Hunter. So you have Michael Mando as Kraven, and Madeline Martin as Shathra, and I do realize that I chose two actors with M as their names. So basically, I chose two M&Ms to play fucking Spider-Man villains. I didn't do that on purpose. I just really think both of them would be perfect for the roles. And so, yeah, you have the rest of the movie like that. And honestly, Spider-Man is very concerned because they're trapped in this universe, and he's got to protect his son. It's him and Jessica Jones, and they're sort of fighting, and they're sort of like, they're fighting, both of them have different ideals, and you have Harry, and he tries to go off. And so you have all these things that happen that leads up to the finale. And in the finale, Doctor Strange opens up a portal to go back to the main universe. And so basically things have got to happen, and then they'll go back to the main universe. So what ends up happening is something really bad happens where Kraven actually wounds Spider-Man, and he is bleeding, and so he really has limited time. All the wasps are after him. There's sort of a period in the movie where they're able to go undetected, where they're able to avoid them and sort of just interact with this different world and see how these wasps live and everything. But at the end, they're all coming. So Spider-Man has got to act fast, and in order to do that, he tricks Shathra into a trap himself, based off of Kraven's own traps. And he basically takes Kraven's traps and uses them to trap Shathra. And not only that, but he also spills his blood on her and makes the entire Wasp civilization think that she is him. And so her end is with all of her Wasp colony cannibalizing her and eating her to death. and she dies a horrible death. But what ends up happening after that is pretty bad because Harry goes off on his own, as I said, and Jessica Jones goes after him immediately, while Spider-Man is more concerned with fighting Shathra. So that's what I said is like both of them have different objectives. Like Jessica Jones, all she cares about is protecting Harry. Spider-Man, all of his goals revolve around fighting Shathra so that then he can get out without Shathra coming to follow him, and Kraven too. So what ends up happening is that Kraven traps Jessica Jones and Kraven kills Jessica Jones. They have a bit of a battle, but it is pretty brutal. I want Kraven to basically render Jessica Jones unable to do anything, and then I want him to brutally kill her with his knife in front of Harry. And that is where we get a really sad scene where Spider-Man catches up with them. Kraven runs away because he's gonna, set another trap, or he's got to avoid the wasps that are coming after him. And Harry interacts with Jessica Jones, and he's like, is she gonna live? Is she gonna survive? And Jessica Jones says a couple of last words to Harry, and she gives him a kiss on the cheek, and then she dies. And it's like, oh shit, because now the Wasps are coming after Spider-Man and his son. They realize that they're there. They're also going after Kraven. And Spider-Man is like, you know what, son? We're going to have to leave Jessica Jones here. We cannot escape this with her. We cannot have any sort of dead weight, as they say. And Harry is devastated, obviously, and that is where more of the resentment grows for his father. And Kraven ends up escaping through the portal. And then Spider-Man and his son follow, and it's this very sad thing where the Wasps devour Jessica Jones as well. And now what ends up happening in this universe is that Spider-Man tells his son, go home to your mom right now. And he does, and he's really devastated. He just goes home with his mom. He finds her and Doctor Strange waiting. And then Spider-Man, instead of Kraven going after Spider-Man like he's been doing the whole movie, Spider-Man is going after Kraven. And he is hunting after Kraven. I want there to be a really awesome chase sequence between them in the city where he is chasing Kraven. He is finding him. He is hunting the hunter. And at the very end, Kraven has basically stopped running. And he says, okay. What's going to happen here is we're going to fight. And I am going to get rid of all my weapons, and we're going to fight hand to hand, and whoever wins gets to live. Because this is drawn out way too long. Let's not really drawn out too long, but let's have an equal battle. Both of us, hand to hand, no weapons, no webbing, no nothing. It's just hand to hand between us. And so that's where Kraven screws up, because he's really he's overly confident, and he thinks he wants the challenge of fighting this human with these Spider-Man abilities, and so he challenges him to this duel, and it is Spider-Man versus Kraven, one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat. It's pretty intense. I want it to be like the Spider-Man 1 fight. And then Spider-Man ends up beating him. And what happens next shocks everyone, because Kraven, he says, I accept defeat. And he says, please kill me now. Spider-Man doesn't kill him. He doesn't do the honorable thing. So Kraven stands up and he tries to kill himself. And he stabs himself in the neck and slices his own throat open. And that is where the movie is about to end. And at that point, Spider-Man, whereas he left Jessica Jones in the Wasp universe, he kind of feels bad about that, and so he picks up Kraven. And the final sequence of the film is Spider-Man carrying Kraven to the hospital and trying to rush him to get him help. And he webs his neck, and he does everything he can, and it's sort of like another impending doom sequence where, we know that it's not going to work. We know that Kraven, he's dying, he killed himself, he sliced his neck open, he's going to bleed out. But Spider-Man is carrying this bloodied villain through all over the city. Everyone sees him carrying this bloodied Kraven, blood dripping everywhere. Really gruesome death that he got because he decided to accept defeat and honorably kill himself. And then the movie ends. Kraven died violently. He's gone, obviously. He's not going to survive that. And then the movie's final shot will be Spider-Man standing on top of a building, sort of looking over the city, and his son and wife, his two sons and wife, are eating pizza with him on the rooftop of some tall building. And it's sort of like the message of, Spider-Man is the alpha. He is the hunter in this city. He is the one to be afraid of, not Kraven, not Shathra, and he is he's the one. He is the hunter, and he is the leader of the city. He is the most powerful superhero in the city, and he is the one to beat. Okay, that's my pitch. It went a lot more smoothly than the Spider-Man 4 pitch, but there's probably a lot of questions and issues that people have. And please let me know what those issues are. Let me know what you thought of the pitch. Let me know what you liked and didn't like, and then I will be coming at you with the Spider-Man 6 pitch soon. And I'll just say soon because maybe soon is next week. So I hope you guys like this video. Harry the Caterpillar is crawling around the steering wheel now. Pretty funny. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of this Spider-Man pitch. It's just something for fun. I thought this would be cool. You have these two characters who are both like hunters. They want to trap Spider-Man. They want to, get him. And then you have Spider-Man, and he has to basically become the hunter. He has to adapt and do all this stuff to survive and to protect his son and to get back to the universe. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Spider-Man movie pitches or movie pitches, reviews, TV reviews, video game reviews, book reviews. So yeah, goodbye everybody. See you soon.